Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. You know, I felt quite bad about leaving you last week without one final update on the chart of Bitcoin before I rest for a few weeks. So in this video, I want to take a look at the chart of Bitcoin and ask ourselves, is there anything on the charts that is likely to be self-evident or obvious on the chart of Bitcoin? Let's have a look at this. Join me. Alright guys, welcome back. Before we start, I just want to say a huge thanks to all of you for your great messages and your well wishes and kind words over the last few days because of my injury. So I really appreciate it, guys, and I couldn't thank you enough for your kindness. Thank you very much, guys. It means a lot. By the way, I've had to make some adjustments over the last few days as well. It's not been easy. For example, I've had to cut my shirt open just to put the cast through. And one thing I've noticed is I can't play my favorite tunes anymore, my favorite music on my piano. For example, the music for Rocky, it's impossible to play with one hand. Let me just show you. It doesn't sound the same without the left hand coming in and saying, and that's why you need both hands. All right, guys, let's talk about Bitcoin. So as you probably remember from our previous videos on Bitcoin, we've said now for several weeks and months now that the drop in the price of Bitcoin, the 50% drop in the price of Bitcoin from 64,000 all the way to 30,000, 29,000 levels, we said it was not a bear market. So again, we went against the herd. As you may recall, most other chart analysts and YouTubers were saying that we are in a bear market because we've dropped by 50%. But we disagreed with that. And that's why it's a good idea sometimes to go against the majority opinion, the crowd, because the crowd often get it wrong. And the reason why we said the 50% drop in the price of Bitcoin is not a bear market, because it's just an arbitrary number. 40%, 50% drops in the price does not necessarily mean that you have entered a bear market. What you need for a bear market is a break of market structure, and we did not have that on the chart of Bitcoin. Market structure or support levels on Bitcoin never broke, as you can see here. We stayed above that support level near the 30,000, 29,000 levels. So that's why we disagreed with the majority of you out there that Bitcoin was in a bear market. We said no, Bitcoin is still in a bull market as long as it remains above the support levels at the 30,000, 29,000 levels. And we also said in our previous videos that Bitcoin would have to get above the 21 weekly average, the blue line on my chart, to increase the probability of Bitcoin moving back into an uptrend, or indeed a continuation of the bull market. And Bitcoin has now done that. And by the way, this rally in Bitcoin has now brought the price action to the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement level, that red line you can see on my chart. That is the Fibonacci 61.8% retracement of the April to June decline, the April to June crash. So that is a very key level. Now, I think it's possible that some of you watching this video right now are probably thinking, well, it's obvious, it's self-evident that Bitcoin is now moving to 100,000. I mean, just look at it. The price action looks strong, and it just looks self-evident that we're moving back up to the 64 and then 100,000 level. And I think it's possible that some of you watching this video right now are going to disagree, and you might say, no, that's not the case at all. It's obvious and it's self-evident that this rally is actually a false rally. It's a bull trap. So who is right here? The people who think it's self-evident that Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000, or the people who think it's self-evident and obvious that Bitcoin is just making a false rally or a bull trap? So here's the thing, guys. I was recently watching a debate between Professor Jordan Peterson, and Matt Dillahunty. By the way, it's a fascinating interview. If you get a chance, watch this interview, which is on the subject of religion and morality. And I have to tell you, something very interesting happened in this debate, which I want to play for you. You see, guys, what happened during the debate was that Matt Dillahunty, the gentleman you see here, he said it's self-evident that some things are just true. And Jordan Peterson responded like this.
Why do you think it's not in your best interest to have stuff stolen from you or to be thrown off the stage?
Why is it not in my best interest?
Yeah. No, you don't get to think, oh, that's self-evident. It's like nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh, well, so...
Because if we're going to get skeptical here, we might as well go all the way to the bottom.
So I agree 100% with Jordan Peterson. He's absolutely right. Nothing is certain or self-evident to a skeptic. And I would say nothing is self-evident to a trader or a chart analyst. As I'm sure you know, as a chart analyst and a trader, you need to keep an open mind, because anything is possible, anything can happen. We have to remember that all markets, including Bitcoin, are non-linear, meaning they're ruled by chaos and are inherently unpredictable. This is why new traders and chartists get frustrated and they say, tell us exactly what will happen next. I don't want probabilities, just tell us exactly what's going to happen. Now, if you listen carefully, what they're really saying is they want certainty. Give me certainty. And my answer is, how are we supposed to do that? They want something that is impossible because the markets are uncertain and probabilistic. So nothing on the chart can be self-evident or obvious to us. And we always need to remind ourselves of this fact because I think both sides make a very good point here. One side is saying that this rally is quite obviously or self-evidently the start of a major new uptrend towards 64,000, 100,000 in the next few months. And the other side is saying, no, this rally is just a retracement, maybe a false rally or a bull trap, a retracement of the 61.8% Fibonacci level before we go back down again. So the question is, well, how can we decide which side or which perspective is the right one? So here's what I would say. As Jordan Peterson said in that video, nothing is self-evident to the skeptic, and that means nothing, therefore, is self-evident to the chart analyst or trader. Therefore, we need to remind ourselves of where is the key support level on the weekly chart. And that, of course, is the weekly 21 moving average, the blue line you see on my chart. That means this. We can say that as long as the price action, as long as Bitcoin can remain above that 21 weekly average, then there's a slightly higher probability that we are likely in an uptrend and that bulls are in control, and that the wave 4 correction, the ABC correction, the wave 4, has likely completed back in June or July. But that's only if price action remains above the 21 weekly average. Because as I'm sure you heard what we said back in the previous video with Manuel Bly, the Dow theory, we said if Bitcoin drops once again to the lows near July, then forget it. A drop back down to those lows means likely a failed rally and therefore a major breakdown towards the 20,000 levels. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. All I'm saying is that we have to be careful of the risks. We have to be careful of any possibility that can happen in the next few weeks and months. So that's why the 21 weekly average on the chart there is going to be very important. As long as Bitcoin can remain above the 21 weekly average, bulls are in control and the path of least resistance remains to the upside. Of course, there could be a pullback, maybe a small pullback in the short term. Now, could that perspective be wrong? Absolutely. If the price of Bitcoin were to drop back down below the 21 weekly average, then we'd have to change our mind and say no. That bullish perspective on Bitcoin has now likely been reduced in probability. That's only if the price of Bitcoin were to drop back down below support near the 21 weekly average. We might see a pullback in the short term, maybe a pullback to the daily moving averages, but for now anyway, the chart looks bullish on Bitcoin unless the price action shows otherwise. And I think the next couple of weeks could be very important to actually show to us what Bitcoin wants to decide. One important thing to mention is that we have now reached a 61.8% Fibonacci retracement of the April to June drop. This is a resistance level where usually price fails, for example, like in 2017. So it is not self-evident that everything is okay for Bitcoin. It's going to be very important to see what happens in the next few weeks, whether price can remain above the weekly 21 average or not. All right, guys, I hope this video has helped. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with not so much gold and silver, but titanium.